Hi, and welcome to the I Teed Myself podcast. My name is Matthew Miniman, and this is episode 82. What can eyeglasses teach us about hardware replacement? So, the American Optometric Association, or the AOA, is the overseeing body for all optometrists, ophthalmologists, and basically general eye doctors and general eye techs in the United States. They create the rules for optometrists to predict and prescribe glasses, medications, contact lenses, laser surgery, all that. And so as that organization is responsible for all of this, they make rules and guidelines around what should happen with eyeglasses. And if you're a person that needs eyeglasses, you're considered at risk to the AOA. And that means that, you have symptoms of some sort of eye issue. You're nearsighted, you're farsighted, you have some sort of eye problem. I'm not one of you people. I don't need glasses, which is interesting because I have enough fucked up shit with my eyes as it is. I'm colorblind, so, can't see. I can see perfectly fine far away and close up, but goddammit, you ask me what color that cable is, I'm going to have trouble with it, which is really annoying when making Ethernet cable. But that's another discussion for another time. Anyway, the AOA suggests if you need glasses, that as you age and all of that, you need to get your eyes checked periodically. And typically, if you're an at-risk person or somebody who needs glasses, you should have your eyes checked about once every year. And if you're a person who doesn't have eyeglasses, who doesn't need glasses, you should probably have your eyes checked once every 2 years. And this is because that your eyes will change subtly over time, and that you may start suffering some sort of degenerative effect with your eyes and not notice. It is a problem because your eyes will change so gradually that you will start to lose the ability to see out of one eye, or, basically what happens is if one eye starts to degenerate, the other eye will compensate and you'll actually stop seeing out of one eye entirely. Like your brain will just block out the information coming out of one eye, and you'll lose the ability to utilize that eye, because your brain will basically train itself that sensory input doesn't matter, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of an amazing aspect of our brain. But the whole idea here is that if you don't get it checked out, you can't know that this is happening. You can't stop it before it becomes a significant problem. Because fixing it after, fixing your brain after it's decided to stop paying attention to that one eye is much harder than if you had just allowed it to, or stopped the degeneration in the first place. And so in order to stop the degeneration, or, compensate a little better, you wear glasses, and that will help you. Some of the dangers of not wearing glasses are things like, like I said, your brain stops using that eye for information, but there are also things like headaches, loss of concentration. You won't be able to see, which is obviously a bad thing. You can have migraines caused by not being able to see. And generally, it's just you're just going to have a bad time. So when you are looking for reasons to operate or get get glasses, not just sunglasses, but glasses, then you should do it because you are at risk of damaging yourself even further, or having problems. And so this is kind of the same thing as using hardware that is old. And I think I've brought this up a few times in previous in previous episodes, but when you are working in IT, one of the things that we often hear is that, oh, I don't have the budget for that. We don't have a budget for that. Money's really tight. You know, doctors or business owners, people who make financial decision. The unfortunate part of IT is generally a cost. It is a spend. IT is always a spend. IT does not make money, which is a problem because the more you toss into IT, generally in a business, you don't see any of that return in revenue. The only reason why you spend in IT is because you don't want to have any harm. You want to be able to do your job, so on and so forth, but it doesn't actually make you any money. It's just it's a tool that needs money thrown at it. It's like a car or your eyes, because when you are working on old hardware, it can be similar to wearing old glasses, because if you have a prescription, so even if you don't necessarily believe that your eyesight has changed, or that your prescription has altered at all, this is the reason why you need to go to the optometrist every year, is because your prescription can have changed, and it can change in subtle ways. And in order to prevent the pain and vision issues that come with not having the proper prescription for your eyes, you need to go and get them checked out so you can get the proper prescription, so you can renew your eyeglasses, so you can make sure that you're seeing properly and that you're not suffering from all of the issues that come with having problems with vision. And so, like, when you're operating on old hardware, it's like operating on an old prescription. Yeah, it was good for you last year, but this year that hardware is now holding you back. This hardware is preventing you from doing something else. And as an example, and this is part of the reason why I decided to go with eyeglasses this for this subject, is because I have a client who is an optometrist. They have a business that's mildly successful, but they have their own hardware, which is kind of unique in today's environment. Most small offices actually don't have their own servers within their building and whatnot, but this office does. They decided they wanted their servers. They wanted to have them in their building next to their patients and all of that. They wanted to make sure that they didn't have to have an internet connection to do their job, which is fine. And back in the days of dial-up, that was definitely a consideration. But okay, this doctor has purchased this server, and it is now 14 years old. It is now 10 years out of date, according to the average replacement life cycle, and is 7 years out of warranty, and is 5 years out of an extended warranty. So this doctor is operating on a server that is not covered by warranty. If something should happen to it, he's going to have to pay, no matter what, to replace a part, to get it working again, whatever. On top of that, this server is old, 14 years of technological advancement, of updates and whatnot, make this computer extremely obsolete. But I think the biggest problem is that because it is so old, it actually has issues with the microcode on the CPU. This particular server, because of how old it is, doesn't have any of the microcode fixes for Spectre Meltdown and a lot of other CPU vulnerabilities, which means Windows is doing a lot of that heavy lifting to make sure that Spectre Meltdown isn't a thing on that CPU, which means that Windows actually runs slower just as a function of it existing on the hardware. So even though the CPU is old, it is running even slower than what it would normally do than what it would normally run, just because of this microcode, this lack of microcode fix for Spectrum Meltdown. So that being said, this server is extremely, it's dicey to use. It's difficult to justify utilization, but the doctor refuses to replace it because they feel like they don't have the money to do so. And the owner of the MSP I currently work for, the thing that he says that I really enjoy is that there are two times in which you're going to pay for something in IT: before an emergency and after an emergency, immediately after. And which side are you currently on of that line? Because this doctor could pay for a server right now and make sure that he's up and running, and he needs to follow the suggestion of the people that he pays to make that suggestion. But if he doesn't, then when that server crashes, he's going to have to be paying for that server anyways. And I can understand the attraction of doing that, but I do have to ask him, would he, as a doctor, take a patient telling him, I can't really afford glasses right now, can't I just use these old ones? I would ask him if he thinks that that's an okay thing to do, because based on his Hippocratic oath, which he should have, pledged when he became a doctor, do no harm is rule number one, which means that if he, as a doctor, believes that this is the proper treatment for the patient, then there is no other answer. It's full stop, end of story. To put this another way, for other people to understand, when you are driving a car, a lot of us will drive a car until the wheels fall off. But that's not always great, because when the wheels fall off might be when you have an emergency or have to get to something. And I know, having worked in a environment with a lot of people where I had to manage upwards of 200 people, I had a lot of individuals who would do that. They would drive until the wheels fell off of their car. And they would try to keep that car going for as long as possible. And they would call in once a week. Hey, I'm going to be late. My car broke down again. I'm getting it towed right now, but I'll be in as soon as I can. And, this would happen. And they basically, it would put additional stress on their life. Whereas if they just replaced the vehicle when they started to identify problems with it, it would have been great. Now, I can hear the arguments from the back, from the people who are financial folk going, you can't always justify that expense. You don't always have the money. And okay, I kind of agree from a certain perspective. Yes, there are opportunities where absolutely, a business does not have the money to purchase new hardware. A company does not have the ability to get the necessary thing. But here's the problem. You paid somebody to tell you that your hardware is gone. You have somebody who's telling you this is your life cycle. This is what you need to plan. You, as a business, should make good enough financial decisions to have that money saved up by that point in time. This is not something that gets dropped on you all of a sudden. This is not a problem that exists out of nowhere. This is a problem that you have at least 5 years to identify and replace. We suggest replacing servers once every 4 years, only because that's when servers tend to have things go wrong. But you can extend the life out of a server for as long as warranty will cover it, which is great. But as soon as warranty stops covering it, that's when you need to replace it. So this doctor has had 10 years since the original time when we said, you should replace this server. You should start thinking about replacing it, to save up for that replacement, and just has never done it. That identifies a poor financial decision on this doctor's part. And so if he in fact cannot afford it, So this is not an expense that happens all of a sudden. This is not an emergency expense. This is a planned expense. This is an expense that every operation, every organization should plan on making. It's like having a hardware for a laptop. It's like planning for those replacements. Those should not be surprising. Your life cycle, your hardware life cycle should be a planned replacement. So you never have to say we don't have the money because you planned on spending it. You planned on making those decisions. And if you don't have to replace some of the hardware at the hardware lifecycle replacement, cool. That's not money you have to spend. It's just money that you've set aside. And so you can set that money aside for longer to then maybe replace something else when it breaks. But the whole point is that you need to plan on this expense. It's like going to the eye doctor. Why the fuck would you go to the eye doctor if you didn't think there was something wrong with your eyes? Or if you didn't think that there was a potential for something to be wrong with your eyes? And so if you're going to go to the eye doctor, pay him to do an examination and then ignore his suggestion and not get glasses. What the fuck is wrong with you? Maybe I'm just thinking too logically. I don't know. Or, maybe, I understand that there are financial limitations, that there are reasons why you wouldn't want to spend this money and or situations where you would get yourself into a problem. However, again, something you can plan for. These are expenses you can plan for and save for and identify. In terms of this one particular doctor that we have that is a client, we don't really feel too much compassion for him because he just paid for a renovation of his office, which means he had the money sometime. He had that planned somewhere. He just chose to spend it on something else, which is complete bullshit. Now, I'm not saying this because I hate working on his servers. I do. That is a thing. But I'm saying this from a perspective of it is holding him back. This is a common problem with IT, is that wanting to spend money. And again, like I said a little bit earlier before this, that you have a problem with business owners wanting to make decisions based on IT being a cost center. It doesn't make any money. All it does is just cost me money. Why would I spend money on something that doesn't make me money? And that's kind of true up until the fact where your business is out of business because IT can't operate. And this is the tough spot for IT individuals to be in. And for those business owners who don't have or who don't do their own IT or who aren't IT and just run their business, this is a hard spot for you to put IT in, because what happens is you hire IT to keep the lights on, right? You hire IT to keep your servers up and running, and IT tries to do this as much as they can. But then when something breaks, it's IT's fault because that's their job. That's their job to keep everything running. But if you didn't spend the fucking money on the first place to help IT out, to keep their business running, you have made their job impossible. And so they are between a rock and a hard place with your organization. I have felt this personally with some of my previous IT positions where the owner refused to make the proper spend on hardware and paid for it in downtime, and then blamed IT for it in total. And it's an absolute ridiculous place to be in. So the guidance here is to follow the suggestion of your IT department. Now, IT professionals have to do a better job of communicating the expected expenditures. So that way businesses, financial teams, owners can plan on spending money at a regular cadence. They can identify when that rent is due. The business owners can't just choose to not pay a mortgage. The business owners can't decide to just not pay their taxes. and they need to be convinced by IT to not skip the payment on their hardware replacement or hardware lifecycle replacement. IT needs to do a better job of leveraging their relationship to make sure that business owners and financial decision makers can plan on this replacement cycle and know when to spend that money. And on the flip side of that, business owners and financial planners need to understand when there is a need to replace something, that it should be replaced at that time. And there shouldn't be a time to wait, because either you're going to pay for it now or you're going to pay for it later. And do you want to pay for it when it's not an emergency, or do you want to pay for it when it's an emergency and you also have all of these other things going on that you might not necessarily be able to plan around? So, as business owners, as IT professionals, we can all do better, 100%. But also, just fucking listen to the people who are telling you what's what. Don't ignore the signs that there is a problem. Replace hardware before it becomes a problem. Replace computers, replace your servers, replace everything that you have at a particular cadence. Because if you don't, you will have an unplanned outage. You will have a problem, and it will cause you greater issues down the line. All right, guys, that's all I have for today, and I hope you have a great day.